Happy Saturday, everybody. This is Jamie Newman here, and I think my finger was just blocking the mic, but it is day 3 of the What If project, and I want to start off with a very, very short story. So this would have been, I want to say September 2016, so September of last year. I left my corporate career after 8 years with one company. I left them in end of July, and so a couple months later, I was considering this thought of potentially starting my own business, considering this thought of starting a podcast. And it would have been, again, it would have been in September. And I remember walking around our block at night trying to come up with some ideas. And I started listening to a podcast. And one of the guys, or the person who was being interviewed on the podcast, was a man named Howard Behar. And Howard is a retired president of Starbucks, so there's a couple Howards when it comes to Starbucks leadership. So this was Howard Behar, and he was sharing a couple things just about his, leadership philosophy, and it just really resonated with me and really inspired me. And I remember almost hurrying back home to just send him an email directly, just telling him how much I appreciated what he said on this other podcast interview. And I remember mentioning to him, I said, I'm actually considering starting a podcast, and once I decide when to do that, I'd love to reach out to you and see if you'd join me as a guest. And so that was September, and about a month later, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to launch a podcast, the Your Best Manager podcast. And one of the things I did to launch it was I created 100 personalized videos of me sharing my philosophy for the podcast, and one of those 100 people I reached out to was Howard. And I remember sending him this video saying, hey, if you remember me, I emailed you in September. I've decided to start my podcast. I'd love you to come on and talk leadership with me. And I still remember getting that email from him saying, yes, I'll do it. And that turned into the second ever episode of the Your Best Manager podcast, episode 2. Which I've got a link in the descriptions section of this, but episode 2 with Howard Behar. And the tip of today comes primarily from that conversation that I had with him, but lo and behold, it also came up when I was talking to a lady named Pernille Spiers-Lopez, who is a former president and CEO of IKEA North America and former global chief HR officer of IKEA Global. And so here's essentially what the what if tip of today is. What if all managers everywhere were to come up with, draft, create, define their own personal mission statement? And what if they got really crystal clear on their core values, on their convictions of who they are as a leader, and what if they reviewed that regularly? Like, what type of ripple effect would something as simple as having a personal mission statement due to leadership across, corporate America, across the world, if all managers were to do that? And so if you listen to that episode with Howard, he shared his own personal mission statement. I think he called it Howard in 50 words or less. And he actually keeps one of those cue cards, one of those note cards in his pocket with him at all times, and he still does it, so that he can constantly be reminded of what he stands for, how he wants to treat people, how he wants to be remembered, what type of legacy he wants to leave. And the cool thing is, if you know anything about Starbucks as a company, they are known for treating their people incredibly well. And I've got to say, go figure, it's because the people at the top of that organization care enough about their people and care enough to remind themselves why they do what they do. So the tip of today is, it's Saturday right now. You're not working unless you are in retail or restaurant business. If you're corporate, you've got a day off typically. And so I'm going to challenge you to take some time and write out a personal mission statement. Now, something else you could do, and I talked about this when I did a 5-day leadership challenge back in February, I think. I talked about setting up your core values and your priorities in life. And if you remember, and hopefully I don't screw these up, I've got them written on my whiteboard at home. But my core values, when I look at like my priorities in life, my top 5 priorities, I've got God number 1. I've got my relationship with Christina, my wife, is number 2. I've got relationships with my kids as number 3. So my role as a parent, and then I've got family and friends and health. And I don't mention career in my priorities because my career is one of the ways that I get to serve my priorities in life. And so that's what it is for me. But here's something to make this practical. So again, Howard Behar mentioned that he has a cue card on his that he keeps with him at all times. I'm going to suggest something a little bit different. And right now I'm in my wife's car, but the same thing. We all have these things, and they are I don't know, sun visors. I don't know what they're called. And so my tip is take a cue card, and it doesn't matter. Maybe it's your priorities. Maybe it's your personal mission statement. Maybe it's your a quote. Maybe it's a Bible verse, a mantra, something. Write it on a cue card, and attach it to your visor. Because here's what's going to happen. This is effortless. You take a couple minutes on a Saturday to write it out on one of those cue cards, one of those recipe cards, note cards. You attach it to your car, and every single time that it is sunny, you're going to throw that thing down, and come you can see, you're going to be reminded right there of your personal mission statement. You're going to be reminded right there of your priorities. You're going to be reminded right there of that quote or that Bible verse or that saying to live by, that mantra. And I just want you to imagine, what if all managers, every time they got sun in their eyes, were reminded while they're driving of why they do what they do? What kind of ripple effect would that have? And so that is the big tip, the what if tip of the day. And again, it's inspired by my conversation with Howard Behar, but I'll also share this.
I only have one now.
You lost a sticker?
Yeah.
Oh no, you have your book sticker or your owl sticker?
Book sticker.
Your book sticker. Well, that's good. Books are good. So it's inspired by my conversation with Howard Behar. That was episode 2. But it's also inspired by my conversation with Pernille Spiers-Lopez, which was episode 25. And one of the things that she said, and hopefully I don't screw it up, but I really remember this stuck out. She said, the clearer I am on my core values, the easier it is to stand my ground. And a lot of that is easier said than done, because we all talk about how good it is to have convictions, to have core values, to have things to live by. But you've got to be reminded of them on a regular basis. You've got to keep it top of mind. And so my tip of the day is find a place where you're going to look at it every single day. Maybe that's a bathroom mirror. Maybe that's your ceiling, so that when you wake up, it's the first thing that you look at. It's just about making things visual. And again, think about the ripple effect if that happened. Other than that, I hope you have a fantastic Saturday. I will see you again live tomorrow, Sunday. By the way, this is Jake. Jake, do you want to say hi?
Hi.
Yeah, that's Jake. We just finished soccer. And we are going to go into the construction worker store. I go into Home Depot and get a couple things to mark off our fence that we're building in our backyard right now. So have a fantastic day, and spend 20 minutes and come up with something that you want to remind yourself of every single time the sun hits your eyes while you're driving, and think about the impact that that'll have, costing you 0 time. Also, just a quick reminder, if you have not signed up for the What If Project, you want to do that, go to yourbestmanager.com/whatif. I didn't introduce myself this time. If you haven't watched any of these lives before, this is Jamie Newman, and I'm the founder of yourbestmanager.com and the host of the Your Best Manager podcast. And throughout these 30 days, I'm also working on a big project in the background called Different. And so the What If project ties into different, because what if managers were a little bit different every day? Not necessarily better, but just different. And so I've got a full leadership development program, an 8-week program I'm building. It started off as $10 to gain entry. It's going to be a $997 program. It was $10 on June 1st.
I ate all of them.
You ate all of them?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll have to get more. It was $20 on June 2nd, which was yesterday. Access to that course is $30 today, and access to that course is $40 tomorrow. So it pays to register early for that, and by being a founding member of that Different program, you get to help me tailor the content to what's going to be most valuable and most relevant to what you're going through and what you actually want to learn. And as I've been sharing, one of the things I did a number of weeks ago is I did a survey on some of the biggest challenges, and I found out that, not that I was surprised by this, but I found out that time management is one of the biggest challenges that managers face. And so because of that feedback, I'm going to make sure that component of the 8-week program I've developed is going to be a little bit deeper and a little bit more applicable. And so I'm excited to have some more founding members join. We've had a few already, and I keep forgetting to write down some of the names so I can say welcome to the program. The only name I can remember off the top of my head is Patricia and Bill. I can't remember. But anyway, thanks for joining, first of all. And if you're interested, you want to definitely sign up sooner rather than later. You can find out so much more about what I'm doing. Just go to yourbestmanager.com/today. And other than that, I've talked too much. These are supposed to be short little videos. And, oh well. Have a great Saturday, and I will see you tomorrow.